Well, baseball season is back again, but if you want something with a lot more balls, go to www.NTTFGPOD.com and subscribe.
I'm Rock.
And I'm Archie.
Well, our opinions, they might not matter to some, but...
What are you doing in there?
It's a podcast.
Immature, crass, trashy. And those are their good qualities. These poor schmucks are a couple of IQ points away from eating paste. But when it comes to music, sports, and comedy, well, that's all they know. You're listening to
Not These Two Fucking Guys.
Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
Yo, before we introduce our next guest, I know Rocco has a beef and he wants to let it out so bad. No pun intended. But I just want to give a shout out and a congratulations to one of our homegirls from back in the day, a fellow Bloomfield native, Carlene Risimini. Her and her sister started a slam-tific deli in Belleville, New Jersey called Reese's. From our family to yours. What a great tagline. Yo, if you're in the area, Essex County, Passaic County, floating around the Pasta Triangle, Bloomfield, Belleville, Nutley, or even passing through Branchbrook Park, gazing at those beautiful cherry blossoms, you know what I'm talking about. Stop in and grab some lunch. Hot Heroes, subs, burgers, wraps, and more. Located at 528 Joralemon Street in Belleville, New Jersey, that is, to the people out of state, out of country listening to this podcast. Stop by, give it a try, support local businesses. I know Rocco and I like a little sodium midday, so we're coming down for a sandwich. Yo, Car, good luck. Yo, Rock.
Yo.
You're looking a little beefy today. And I'll be honest with you. I don't know if you had... Maybe some cold cuts with a little too much sodium, or you got a beef about something.
So my beef is actually...
Got beef?
I got beef. So I got beef.
If you got beef, bro, I hear it. Let's go.
My beef is actually piss. Does that sound weird? So
yeah, that's weird.
When you're at a urinal...
Yes.
Right? You're just concentrating on fucking pulling your wiener out, peeing in a spot where it's not going to splash back up on your hands, especially in days of COVID like this where germs suck, right?
Now,
you get in the right spot. It's a row of urinals. Let me ask you a question. What would possess the motherfucker next to you to talk to you? I don't care if it's your best friend. I don't care if it's your brother. I don't care if it's your fucking cousin's sister's fucking mailman. Why? What are you gaining out of talking to somebody with their fucking dick in their hand? I want to know. And I'm saying fucking straight, gay, fucking whatever persuasion you are. What do you, why do you want to talk when you're pissing? Give me one good reason. I want to hear it. I want to fucking hear it.
That might be your own personal problem. I don't know.
You like talking when you're pissing?
No, I don't talk. But if somebody struck up a conversation with me, I don't think I would. No, depending on if it was a stranger. If you were like, bro, that band is awesome, I'd be like, oh yeah, cool. But we were in a trough. Then I'd be like, stop talking to me.
All right, well, first off.
Remember peeing a trough?
Tequila Joe's.
Tequila Joe's?
Trough. You haven't
with
lived till you piss in a trough of ice. I'm not saying that. I'm saying your regular, everyday, conventional urinal.
If someone that I didn't know started talking to me, I'd be like, this guy likes to piss and talk.
Yeah, it's hey, listen, we can be friends. You're probably a very nice guy. Let's do it outside the fucking bathroom. What do you say? There's too many things to concentrate on, like I said, you don't want the fucking water splashing back up on you. It's where you fucking aim. You don't want piss spray pissing back at you. And sometimes, just sometimes, when you're excreting a bodily fluid, you just want silence. Just want fucking silence. I don't want to make friends when I'm fucking pissing. When wiener is in hand, it's time for fucking self-reflection and solace. No talking. We'll be friends outside the bathroom.
I walk a 100-pound pit bull down the street. I'm a tough-looking son of a bitch, okay? I walk a 3-pound peekaboo down the street. They're looking for my husband walking behind me.
Yo, Rock.
Yes, sir.
Tonight's guest is a very funny New York City-based stand-up comedian. She's also a writer
and can be seen on season 14 and 15 of MTV VH1's Wild 'N Out. During the pandemic, you can catch some of her sets via the rooftops above New York City, and ironically enough, my co-host Rocco has performed on top of rooftops before, and it wasn't stand-up.
Oh.
you remember that guy, right? Anyway, welcome to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast, the very funny Maddy Smith.
Hello. Thank you, these fucking guys, for having me. What
How are
else?
ya?
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for the intro.
No doubt, no doubt. Thank you very much for giving us some time.
Yes.
Seeing you on social media and YouTube. Fucking, you're a busy chick. You're busy.
Thanks. I think it looks busier than I am. I'm just going to throw that out there because if you do like one thing a day, it looks like a lot, but
Okay.
I can very clearly tell you I'm horizontal for most of the day. But if you do like a little 15-second thing, it looks like you're crushing it. And I like
Gotcha.
that about social media.
That's the beauty of it.
I know.
About 4 or 5 months ago, we had I believe a friend of yours on, Katie Boyle.
Yeah.
So I found her. Just randomly found her on Instagram, and then rabbit hole going down, just checking out. I found you.
Nice.
And I
Yes.
was like, I was watching clips and scouting out and looking, and I was like, oh shit, that was very funny, very outgoing. Number one.
I am outgoing. I think it's like a people pleasing thing. Like when I get on stage, I'm like, you guys got to like me, so I'm going to amp it up. So yeah. And yeah, Katie and I are pretty close.
Cool.
We do a lot of the same shows in New York and, women in comedy.
Yay. I mean, it looks like you have like from what I see from my end, looks like a strong force, that you have a nice group of women that are just killing it right now,
Yeah. Crushing it. And there's space for them too. There's like a different perspective that comes from the female comedian that you haven't heard for the past 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit I'm thankful to be a woman. I'm not going to lie. I think I would have a hard time being a man in comedy right now.
It was the opposite years ago. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
it's still hard as hell because people are rude as fuck to you. And when you go on the road, people are sexist and decide not to like you the minute you get on stage. But otherwise, it's pretty cool.
Do you feel like when you step on stage, even like forget about the pandemic right now, like, but just even before, like, do you feel like I gotta fucking win these guys over? Like it's almost like a war. Like I'm going to battle.
Sometimes, and it's a very specific room. Not everyone. New York crushing it. Like, within an hour of New York crushing it. But when you get into those towns that are a little bit more red, they kind of look at you like, why isn't she dressed better? And why is she saying what she's saying? More of like a crowds that are like, I like that Brian Regan guy, but she wasn't really, and I could have the same exact jokes as him, and they'd be like, she just wasn't for me. She wasn't for me. And you can feel that like she wasn't for me energy the minute you step on stage, and they're just looking at you like, no, and that's fine. Inherent, kind of like sexism is fine. There are more workout rooms. At the end of the day, I'm accepted. And it's like, oh, you're not my ultimate fan base, so I'll give you what I give. And I'm also going to use you to work some stuff out, but I'm not going to give personal attention to how the show is going. Yeah. Because I can't.
Gotcha.
So speaking to that, Archie and I are in a band, right? And we know by the first song that we play that, okay, they like us or they fucking hate us.
Yes, 100%.
So when it goes to plan B and they fucking hate us, like, do you change your set or is it just like, all right, I'm going to be, like, do you change your persona?
I don't change my persona, and I have to work on this because I'm still like a relatively young artist. I have to work on my emotional response because it'll be 6 minutes. I have internal rage, and so it'll be 6 minutes in where I'm like, oh, great, we're dealing with this. And then the respect for them goes down because I'm like, if you don't laugh at me, you're fucking dumb as hell, even though I could also just have bad energy that night. But I blame them. And the further, by the end of the set, my closer doesn't do well. And I'm like, well, you know what? Fuck you guys and fuck this to that point where it's just like... So I'm working on that like emotional response, and then I do think my persona does change within those first few minutes. No meandering, not even playing around, delivering, getting off stage, goodbye, taking my money. I would say that. Because if the crowd likes me, I'll riff, I'll raff, crowd work. I guess the change is like I go more scripted. Like I don't veer off and I don't give them any extra. Because why? I'm not going to allow myself to go to a place that they're just not going to have fun with. But if a crowd is like loving me, I'll go off script a lot more. So, and which I think is like what my comedy is more riffing and crowd work. But if they don't like me, it's pretty scripted and going to be a lot shorter of a set because 50 minutes can easily turn into 35 if they're not laughing that much.
Well, fuck you. I gotta
fuck
go.
You. Yeah. Exactly.
Now, Rocco and I we've never stepped on stage to do comedy. We've been on a million stages playing local gigs, rock and roll, whatever. But we have never, did stand up. So we don't know what you go through. And, we can hide behind amps and drum sets and shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're out there by yourself. But when Rocco and I come up with content, it's usually like we do we'll either talk, it's music, sports, and comedy. So we'll either riff in the beginning about a topic, and then we'll go into our guest. And there's things that him and I will talk about, and then there's stuff that I'll be like, oh, fuck, bro, I don't care. I'm a pussy. My wife will kill me. I can't do it. And I'm straight up, I can't go there. Like, I just can't. When I hear you talk, like, there's some shit that you say, I was like, oh, and it's funny, and I'm laughing.
Yeah.
There are topics where, like, Rocco and I can go off and talk about, sex and
with each other.
With
oh no, sorry.
Oh
not
shit!
those.
Cut that out.
Shit. Edit that out, Arch.
But then there's times where, like, there's a respect line, and I'm like, listen, I'm not gonna. Hold on. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. I see you. When you do like some short videos for Instagram and stuff like that. Like I see you're like, oh fuck, hey, what's up, motherfuckers?
Hell yeah.
Guess what? You're talking about periods, talking about this, do this.
Yeah.
Is there something? Obviously, you're putting it out there, but is there a line?
No, I don't have any self-respect, if that's what you're asking. That's I really don't think there's a line. I really don't think so, unless my thing is I don't have edgy thoughts. When I was starting comedy, someone was like, I like how not afraid you are to go to like kind of edgy places because you trust yourself that you won't say insanely shit that'll get you canceled. And so that's what I think it is like, I don't give a fuck because I'm not saying anything like, what the as long as I believe it, I will say it. There is some stuff where I'm like, I get high and I'm like, that was a little, what are you doing? You are too exposed there. But for the most part, I pretty much joke about everything, and mostly everything I joke about is personal. So I never really find it to be like, I always find it weird when people are like trying to push boundaries and it involves like commentary on race. And I'm like, why are you trying to do that? But when it's all personal stuff, I'm like, whatever, this is my experience. And I have found that some people are like, this should have a trigger warning. And in my heart, I'm like, it's my experience. And I'm sorry that you feel that way. Because,
So you're now, the only reason why I would know this is obviously because I see your videos, but like you have a boyfriend and I'm sure he's cool with this shit.
He's cool with it. He could not give a fuck because we started dating almost 3 years ago. He's a comedian too. So
okay. All right, so then
we get it's like fake. Like I could go on Instagram and be like, I fucking hate this guy, and then go below him, and he'd be unfazed. We're also at the point where we're in quarantine for a year. We're scrolling through and liking each other's shit without even watching it. Like we don't even consume each other's comedy anymore. It's kind of just a job. It's like a 9 to 5. We're like, I had a rough day. This post bombed, and he like, well, mine went by. It's more about analytics, and stuff, and we also. It's again the same thing where it's like I trust myself to not say anything disrespectful because I love and respect him too.
Yes,
which sounds gay, but you're just like, of course I would never say anything that would hurt him to his core because I know what would hurt him to his core.
Gotcha.
And also, one more thing is like, it's also kind of like a hypothetical boyfriend. Most of anytime you hear like a dating joke and it's like my girlfriend, it's probably made up. Same thing with like my parents did this. It's probably like a very hyper inflated version of what my parents once maybe did.
Gotcha.
sometimes my mom's like, stop talking about me in your set. I'm like, it's literally not you. I'm just trying to write jokes, and this is my full-time job, so maybe you could give it a little bit more respect and stop taking it so personally. So that's also how I feel. It's like not personal anymore. Once it's like your job, you're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
That was so weird, Arch, because like when you were young and you were like, my girlfriend, but you weren't even a stand-up comedian, so like, I don't even know why you were saying that.
Yeah, he's like, she goes to another school.
You can't meet him because he died, so.
Doesn't Maddie seem like a girl that we would have like smoked with in high school? Like one of our friends?
Definitely.
That is not a compliment. I'm going to tell you that much. But yeah, I definitely, I'm from Buffalo, so
okay. Very
like, small town. Mm-hmm. Like the first guy I made out with was like in the back of a pickup truck at a drive-through. So we would have passed the bong around, or the dried up bowl, which was what we were smoking in high school.
Yes.
What got you into comedy?
Nothing much. It's the most boring origin story. I think I need to make up a new story because people are like out here with the best stories ever. Mine was, I always was like the funny one in the friend group, and like people would be like, you're so funny, blah, 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 obviously. And then I moved to New York 5 years ago, and I didn't have any friends here. And I was like, I guess I'll start here because I can do it and be anonymous. Because I used to live in Rochester, New York, where the stand-up scene was 8 comedians, maybe 12 on a good Saturday. But so I was like, I'm not doing it here. The whole city's going to know if my coworkers are going to know if I get up here. But then I moved to New York, and I was like, if I do badly, no one will know. And that's the beauty of like pursuing anything in New York City. You can come here and change your identity and no one will know until you start making it. And so I was like, I'll do it. And if I fail, we can put a bow on it and pretend it never happened. But then I accidentally started doing well. So here we are. So that's pretty much it. I just moved here and started doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, I saw you on some roasts. So there was like some roast battles, some roast masters. Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty cool because like fucking Louis J. Gomez and I think he's Okerson, Big J. So I was scrolling through a couple of videos and I started cracking up because I didn't even hear you guys speak yet. And I'm like, no pun intended, how is she going to handle this? Because you went up against a kid, Chris Crespo. And like,
nice. That's great.
And fucking, he's got, Rock, I don't know if you've seen his videos, but I guess, I don't know if he was born that way, but he's got like deformed.
He was born that way. Okay. He has no hands.
Yeah, he's got no fucking
You're so
hands,
fucked
bro.
up, Art, saying handle, pun intended, Christ.
Fuck you.
He would laugh at that if it helps. If it helps.
No. What they were going back and forth with, bro, makes me look like a fucking priest.
Yeah.
You touch kids?
Trust me.
So
So
all right. So right off the bat, I'm like, I push play. I'm like, all right, where's she gonna take this? How far are they gonna go? And I was like, oh, she went there. All right, here it goes.
You have to, and like that was such a hard battle because the momentum was for him. That was like a double hitter night, and he had another one before where actually someone else I think technically did better than him, but the judges were like, he was too. It was all about his hands. No fucking shit. What else?
Yeah.
So then the judges gave it to Chris. No, and I think the other guy did a little bit better. So then Chris had this momentum of like, oh shit, he's gonna beat the girl, and like he had, and I also think his jokes were better, but I was also up against this like monster of underdog, and the dudes who go to that are like, yeah, take the whore down. So that was like a night where I got beat by a guy with no hands, and that was kind of nearing my end of roasting.
look, Ma, no hands.
No hands. Yeah.
So I think if I'm not mistaken, we asked Katie about this, right? I think Katie did a couple of those too, possibly. What's the prep into that shit? Like do you know like who you're going up against? And you need like X amount you would need X amount of time to like get an arsenal to fucking come there correct.
Yeah, you know who you're going against. The booker of the show will book you anywhere from 1 month ahead of time to the night before, because they have dropouts. And if you're like a seasoned roaster, someone can hit you up the night before and you're like, okay, I'll come up with some stuff. It gets easier the more frequently you do it. There was 1 year where I did like 30 in a year, and I was just like cranking them out because of how many I did. And it's also less personal when it just turns into like, all right, it's a show tomorrow. I couldn't not give a fuck.
Yeah.
So, but if you're kind of like less frequent, you need a lot of time. Some comics need a lot of time. Some comics are perfectionists, believe it or not, and they need like 3 weeks to hone the jokes. And then other comics are more laid back and will be like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't know if you guys know Matt Marin, but he's like the leader of Fight Club in New York City. And he took over Roast Masters, and he sees it. He's a big wrestling guy. And so he sees roasting as long as everyone has fun and we have a great back and forth and the audience laughs, winning or losing or jokes bombing here and there, it doesn't matter. It's like wrestling. Just give a good show. And I wish I had that mindset back then, because I wouldn't have lost my fucking mind like tic-tacking away at 3 a.m. trying to come up with the best insults rather than like be there in your fullest and deliver your jokes proudly. And so if I thought about it more as wrestling back then, I think I would have enjoyed it more.
Good.
What's the scene like in New York City right now? I mean, like comedy clubs open.
They're opening April 2nd.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's some comedy clubs that are doing rooftops, and then some comedy clubs have food so that technically they can do like dinner and a secret show that I don't know how legal it is, but if you serve food, you can be open.
Yeah.
And so they'll just have like a comedian there and won't really put it in their marketing. They'll be like dinner and a show, and then the comedian will be there. And then it's like if the cops burst in, the comedian will just
Nobody laugh.
Yeah. And also like no cop is going to come and take down. It's not happening. So, and then they're opening April 2nd, like all the comedy clubs, I think like 30% capacity or something. And then I think it'll grow. And hopefully by the summer, it's like fully back because everyone's getting vaccinated like rapidly now.
Yeah.
I
saw a video that you put up, and it was like, ask Maddy anything. I think it was something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, what would I be doing if I wasn't in this field?
Oh, yeah.
And it's crazy because like, I think you said in the video, like, well, when you're the career that you're in, when it shuts down fully, like what would I do? You know, or it's just, we've talked to a lot of musicians, decent amount of comedians and some athletes, and everybody's fighting the good fight a certain way. You know, some comedians are doing like they're playing, you know, like fucking horse
drive-ins.
Drive-ins and
You say horse?
I was gonna say horse track.
What are you talking about?
I like the horse track.
But
it's been a very existential year.
Like
and
you must. I can't imagine. Like you can't fucking wait to get back. Like let's go already.
I know.
Like,
I feel like on one hand I can't wait, and on the other I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little nervous because in the quarantine, I started it when I was like 27, 28, and now I'm going to come out almost 30. And it's like, uh-oh. And I'm, you know, like all the episodes I was on TV came out during the quarantine. So you're like, do I have to kind of introduce myself to the industry? I have more of those like kind of like fear of coming back and being humbled. You know what I mean? Because I am excited on one hand, but on the other, I'm a little bit nervous about just like getting back into it and the emotions that come with performing frequently again.
Yeah, I know. Rocco and I, you know, we love going to shows, and we love comedy shows. Fucking rock concerts is one of our favorite, and haven't been to a show in almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
And we were talking to a musician the other day, and like there might be, when it opens up, like an abundance of shows. You're gonna have to pick and choose. You're not gonna, you know.
Definitely, I think there's gonna be an abundance of shows. I think the shows will be packed out because people want to go to shows, and it'll be like a boom for a while. And I think it'll be like a good couple years of like, yeah.
So that's where you got to put all your eggs in a basket and fucking go for it. Let's go.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm like mostly looking forward to not being on the internet full time anymore because I didn't get into this to be on, you know, TikTok and Instagram. I didn't, and it's like I've had to like shift everything over the past year. And you have to remember, I got in this to be a live performer, to engage with audiences and not stare at my phone fucking all day. And it's been interesting to do all that stuff, but it does not provide me what I need mentally.
Yeah, like you said before, like you know, you want to you want to gauge an audience, how
Yeah.
well you're, but you're gauging analytics now. Like, come on.
And then like everything's like, there's algorithms that you can't control. I'm not a hot 17-year-old, so it does not work in my favor.
neither is Rocco.
Neither is Rocco. So it's hard. And it's really mental health in this with the social media is rough too, because you could put all your fucking day into one video and then it tanks and it's not even anything you did. I mean, a lot of the time it's something you did because it just sucks ass. But you also have that whole like, this is why I'm never gonna be a star because I can't control the analytics. Such a dumb spiral.
Well, I have to get into this because fucking Wild Out is like a guilty pleasure of mine.
Oh, really? Hell yeah.
Like I had my 2-year-old. I was like, "Come here, let me show you something."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Come on!" I'm like, "Here we go. You ready?" Like, fucking talk to me. How the fuck did you get on it? What, like, all right. First of all, when I was doing a little research on you, I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "She's on that." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then I'm like, and I'm going back to past episodes, and I'm like, "I think I fucking do remember." I'm like, "All right."
Yeah.
And now you got a bunch of clips on your YouTube, which is awesome. I went over them, and I'm like, "You look very comfortable."
I thought you were going to say different. I was like, listen, I know I look bad without makeup. I don't know. you mean comfortable in my clothing or on stage?
You look very white.
On stage.
No, on stage. On stage, of course.
Thank you.
No,
wow. Oh my God. Usually people are like, you look different. No fucking shit. I look different without makeup. They put me in geisha makeup. Like, what do you want me to say? I do not look like myself at all.
First off, this is the first time we're talking. I don't know you from Adam. I'm going to have to say that's not your clothes that you're bringing. Like that when you're...
Well, it's all in the wardrobe. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
And also, the other women on the show glam up so much that if they were to go any lighter with my makeup, I would have looked washed out. So people are so... Anyway, go on.
All right, but
continue to compliment me.
When I watched that show, listening to all the fucking, the get-ems and the fucking, all the tags and shit, I want to know a bunch of things. Are you coming up with them personally on the fly? Is shit written for you? Did you write the shit ahead of time? Did Nick write the shit on? I would love to know because some of them like you watch and you're like, oh, he fought like. Duh, that sucks. That was a bad comeback. And then some you're like, how the fuck did he get that on the fly?
Yeah,
what?
Definitely.
So please.
I would like to go ahead and say that everything that I performed on there is my own. I don't want to brag, but they do have they do have some exchanging of stuff behind the scenes, consultants and stuff, and everything is Maddy born and raised. So
awesome. Good.
It's
That's
a mix.
Awesome to hear.
It's a mix of like some stuff you know ahead of time, and then some stuff is improv. Like they have the wild style at the end that's like more improv, but then there's some stuff where you're like they just for TV purposes, like which celebrity you're making fun of in a game.
Okay.
So it's more like for filming purposes to keep it streamlined. They'll be like, young swag, you have blah, blah, blah. So prep for that in whichever way you want. And you kind of like, sometimes like the props that are going to be used, like the structure of the episode, but there's no like, here is your script for the episode. It's pretty much a free for all, which is, I'm actually pretty surprised because TV is like pretty regulated. And the fact that they just like trust the cast members to go up and it's pretty wild to me. Pretty wild. No pun intended to me. And I feel like I was talking to a couple people, like if I do TV, if I hopefully ever do shows after that, I will look back on Wild and Out and be like, man, I miss that freedom of like no producers saying run us your jokes, and no one ever checking in. They just film and then take the best stuff and put it on the episode. It's very interesting to me because I feel like other shows are going to be very regulated.
Yeah.
How did you get hooked up with them?
Well, I did the roast battles, and then it's another boring origin story. I saw a post that said Wild and Out's looking for new roast battlers and rap battlers, and I was like, I guess I never thought myself to be any sort of hip hop rapper connoisseur, but I'll apply. And then I auditioned, and they brought me down to Atlanta to keep like they do like a week of re-auditioning called workshops, where like every day there's a few more people gone, you know, and they're just like, oh shit, they sent Dave home, you know, and you're fuck. And then like at the end of the week, you're like, I guess I'm on the show. There was never any like, this is your cast. It was like, I was in wardrobe and they were like, okay, Maddie. There was never any like, you did it. It was just like, I did like an audition for a week and then I was like on an episode and then it just went from there. It was very interesting. Not how I envisioned TV to be, but I guess now I know that it's less like no one's popping a champagne when you get out there.
Yeah.
You're like, this is my first time on TV, and they're like, oh, that's cool. We don't care.
Yeah, like that doesn't mean shit to us, but okay, good.
Yeah, you do you. So it was like in my brain, I was like having a moment when I was running out to my first, you know, you do the run from the sidelines. You're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I guess it's more of a solo experience. There's not people who are like circling around you and like lifting you up. It's just you're there and yeah.
So you step on stage.
Yeah.
In some hip hop clothing, ready to go.
Ready.
And the cameras are on. What's your feeling? What goes through you at that point? Or is it more of like, yeah, fuck it, let's have fun? What are you feeling inside at that time?
It's mixed. My first episode, lots of nerves because I had to roast someone, so I'm trying to remember my roasts and lots of it went by fast. Just a lot of nerves, but a lot of like, what the fuck energy. You know, you run out and everyone's like, wildin'. The lights come down and you're like, this is insane to me. It was insane because also no one in New York knew I was down there because I'm not going to announce until I know like I'm on it because I was workshopping for a week and I'm not going to preemptively be like, because there was a couple people who were like, something's coming and they posted like, wow, and then they got cut. I was like, that is not going to be, I will not post until I'm on like a few. So I'm down here. I'm on filming TV shows when my people are in New York doing stand up. They don't have no idea that I'm like currently filming a It was like it felt very like weird and secretive and like, I don't know what's going on. And
I'm cheating on you people, back up.
Yes. And I didn't even have like really a manager at the time. So I didn't even have anyone to be like, it went like this. It was just very solo and like felt unruly. Like, this isn't how it's supposed to go when you first get on TV.
Yeah.
Not that it was bad. It was just interesting.
Yeah. Now, I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, I heard that they canceled it, but now, like a couple of days ago, I heard it's coming back.
Yeah.
Are you involved at all or no?
So I am in some more episodes from season 15 that haven't aired yet that are still coming out. Okay. And then for the next season, I think I'll be in it, but they're still working stuff out, especially in terms of COVID. Yeah. And who knows? You know, you never know. I did what I was supposed to, and I crushed. Every single time I got the mic, I pretty much crushed. I would say I had a great batting record, but you never know with these kind of shows. SNL deletes people for no reason, and they're just like, okay. But I am excited to kind of like be in the Viacom family and kind of have a leg up there, whether or not I keep going with the show. Although I do think the cards are in my after 2020, they need it. They need like a Karen on the show. So that's what I'm telling them. I'm like, they need this to make fun of. Make fun of me all you want. I just know that you'll need this. But I think we'll find out within a month or so.
Have you ever seen anybody while you were there? Have you ever seen anybody on the show and then they just as soon as the fucking lights came on, they didn't do well. They got axed. They got cacked off or something.
Yes. Some people make it through the whole workshop and then they get like an episode and they're kind of already on thin ice, but they got a producer backing them and they're like, let's see how he does on the stage. And then you don't see him the next day. Oh man. And that was like my biggest fear is like flubbing it up because you don't get a lot of opportunities as an artist. You really get like Eminem wasn't kidding when he said you only get one shot. And so I'm like, on the other side of this, if I fuck this up, I'm going to hate myself for 5 years. Obviously, that's a terrible mentality, but you hear of people like getting to the final round of SNL and stuff like that. And I'm like, I can't deal with that mentally right now. And so there were some people who flubbed up their like one episode and the next day they got sent home.
Yeah.
So you never had any experience doing like sketch comedy, theater, anything like that?
No, I do. I did high school musical theater, but nothing to put on my resume. Definitely a chorus member, and I was definitely just the comedic relief of the chorus. And then no, I did. When I first moved to New York, I did like an improv class, and then I started stand up, and it was like, I'm not doing improv anymore because y'all are not funny, and I cannot work with you. Once you start stand up, you're like, I'm better than all of you. And I was like, I cannot keep paying for improv with this attitude of like, I joke on other stages, just to let you know.
Not this one.
So yeah, I had like a little bit of improv, but nothing wild.
Now, do you aspire to get into acting? Transition into that.
Yeah, I would love to be like. I mean, obviously, this is what everyone says. I would love to be like someone who, when you watch something and you're like, who's that person? They're good and they were good and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I want to be like an unnamed but known person. Like she was really good and blah. I like her. Just like a little side role that appears everywhere for a while. But I don't want to become the Amy Schumer level thing terrifies me because there's mean people. Even on just becoming like a social media person, I get comments every day from the rudest men in America, and I have a really hard time being like they're bad people. I have a really hard time not taking what they say seriously. It's
Arch,
not
stop DMing her, okay? Seriously.
Seriously. But yeah, I would love to do like acting and stuff. It'd be really cool. I mean, like, there's people who've gone to SNL from Wild 'N Out. Or I would also just love to be like a stable touring comedian. One of those two sounds pretty cool.
Well, I'll tell you the clip on Wild 'N Out when you did Ariana Grande.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Was absolutely like fantastic. Like
that was so good. I was
and I'm like, okay, she either has done this before or this is what she wants to do. Because I felt like you really excelled on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was like I was like watching her videos all night, and I was like, fuck, this is gonna be hard. Then I pulled it out. From somewhere, and it worked. Although people on Twitter, her fans, try to fucking like come after me for a day,
because it was about the Forgetting You Were a White award.
Yeah. They were like, just so you know, she knows she's not black, and she never said she. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fucking fuck up.
So I could just imagine, like, God, I don't know, man. To become even, semi-famous, B famous, A famous, whatever it is, just a daily people fucking just writing stupid shit. I mean, how do you the shit that you see and read? How do you deflect? Do you care?
I don't know. Sometimes I care. It depends on my mental state at the time, and I do think after quarantine it'll change because right now I'm just in my home all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm on my phone and I don't have any sort of like. I mean, I'm doing stand up, but not regularly enough where I'm like I got that to fall back on. I'm doing like a few rooftops a week. I'm not like it used to be 4 shows a night, and so now I don't have as much to fall back on mentally when I get a rude comment because it used to be like, well, I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
And I already have 5 shows, so I'm already going to forget about it. But now when I'm in my home all day and someone comments something mean, it's like, it depends on my mental state. Yeah. Sometimes I'll comment back if I'm feeling really impulsive and I'll be like, you got me. And I feel like that feels very powerful because it shows how fucking dumb they are. And then other times I'll just like, I'll fucking delete and block someone too. I don't give a fuck. I'm like, you don't deserve to see my other stuff if you're going to be rude as hell on this one. And so it really depends on my mindset. And then other times I'll just be the bigger person and ignore. And I think that's ultimately what I should do all the time and what most famous people do. But if you catch me in an impulsive state, you'll find me like scrolling through their Instagram photos and then commenting back like, it looks like your shitty music is bringing you along well, Scott. It's like, then I'm like telling them their kids are ugly and they got ugly dogs, and I don't want to be that person, but I'm like, you commented first, it's just like, yeah. And no matter what you say back to them, they'll say something even ruder to you. And it's just, I think you just have to look at the ratio of how many people say something you think is funny or good to how many people say it's bad. And if the ratio is like 90 to 10, you're fine. But if the comments come in and they're mostly like, this is bad, just delete it. You're like, all right, I'll give you guys, I'll let you guys have that one,
A couple things I want to know. I was reading your bio, and Rocco's a big wrestling fan. So I see you're a contributing writer for the roast of Ric Flair.
Yes, I was. That ended up not happening because he went to the hospital like he does every other fucking week right now. So it was supposed to happen at the, what was it called? The Stars something, 2 years ago. It was fun to write for because it had a cast of characters on it. Booker T and Schiavone, Tony Schiavone.
Schiavone, yeah.
Jim something.
Jim Ross, probably.
Jim Ross. All those ugly ass losers in a good way. And so I wrote for and Ric Flair is like, I want to be him. Watching his 30 for 30, I didn't know shit about. I know, it was like inspiring. I was like, I want to do coke, And
he lived his gimmick, man.
he
Good
lived
for him.
he drank so much. He loved fucking chicks. It was amazing. And he's still kicking. It's crazy.
Yeah. God bless him.
So yeah, I wrote for that, and that was with, I don't know if you guys know Mike Lawrence, big writer, and now he has a podcast with Dan St. Germain that is a roast of wrestlers that you should definitely check out.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll be on in a
We'll check
couple
it out.
weeks roasting Ronda Rousey soon. So there's a lot of comedians who are into wrestling, and so that's how I wouldn't say I got into it, but I learned a lot about it through Ric Flair. And they're very similar things, very fake, very like for the audience, very like fake fights and stuff like that. I like it.
Now, how about the roast of Alec Baldwin? Because it just so happens the other night, I guess they replayed it. And my wife and I were like, let's watch a little bit of it. Yeah. And we put it on, and fucking was it Nikki Glaser?
Oh yeah,
she just fucking murders.
Yeah.
Like
I know.
Oh God,
she's the best. Yeah.
What did you contribute to that? Like
I contributed a little bit to Nikki. She had like a team of writers, and so I contributed a little bit to hers.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was pretty fun. It was like that was a little bit harder. I feel like Alec Baldwin is a good roastable person. But compared to the Ric Flair one, that was like way more fun to write for, And also like Comedy Central, with the Ric Flair thing, it's not on a network, so you can like go hard as fuck. With the Comedy Central, you had to be a little bit more, I don't want to say corny, but a little bit more like smart plot twist jokes. Where Ric Flair, you can be like, you ugly ass scab of a person. So yeah, but I do think the Comedy Central roasts are like the last bastion of like hell yeah. Good roast stuff, because people go all fucking out. The Rob Lowe one, they went hard on him.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit of that too. I know that they were for Alec Baldwin, man. They kept going after that line that he called his daughter years ago, and I was just like,
he called her a little pig.
Yeah. And like couple of the guys threw that in there, and like you could see his face, like he's
like, all right.
Yeah, like you could tell, like, because like the mic's still on, and you hear them afterwards. Oh, he's like, you're fucking funny, but like you could just tell, why don't you fucking talk about my daughter?
Some people aren't ready. Ann Coulter, when she got roasted by Pete Davidson, her eyes were like darting. And how do you not know? Just watch the old ones, and you could be like, okay, I'm gonna take a couple Xanax and just push through. But even like roasts I've been booked for, where they ask for a big birthday roast, you go all out, and you can see their eyes start shifting, and you're like, I said too much, and I'm gonna say even more. People think they want to be roasted till they're roasted, and then you really hit some chords with them or whatever. Yeah.
Oh,
that was like the Donald Trump roast, right?
Yeah.
On Comedy Central. Mm-hmm. He looked like he didn't know what a roast was. We're like, wait, they're making fun of me? Well, I mean, what do you think it is?
That was the first sign that he should have been put in a mental home. He was like, I'm getting made fun of on a roast, but then he became the president. So.
I'm the audience. I'm watching it at home. I'm laughing, but my fucking palms are sweating because I just know, like, oh God, like she really went there, like,
so awkward.
Oh my God,
awkward. It's awkward. Yeah.
Archie and I, one of our favorite comedians of all time, and I think was like the best on a roast, was Greg Giraldo. Like he good. Like literally just slayed it every fucking roast, and it was just like it was equal parts like clever and equal parts like crass and like and like just went after it, and that's when I feel like the roasts were like the roast on Comedy Central.
I agree, and he was such like a awesome, like, don't give a fuck about the industry guy. He'd go out there like jeans and a leather jacket, did not give a fuck. Like him, Patrice O'Neill, like could not give a fuck.
Great documentary.
Yes, and I think that was like really good days of like comedy plus TV, a tough crowd kind of days where it was like hell
Love
yeah.
tough crowd. Love tough
now
crowd.
it's a little bit more regulated,
Yeah.
a little bit more celebrity oriented,
Sure.
a little bit more like let's get the stand up who's hot right and like who's got a lot of heat right now, rather than back then it was like Greg is good and let's definitely book him.
What about your influences? Talk to me.
My influences?
Yeah. Anybody in the game and old, new, don't care?
I don't know. It feels like everyone who seems like I should be influenced now turns into a fucking loser, you know? Like, it's hard because like Seinfeld used to be cool, but now he's lame as hell, you know? Like he's writing op-eds for the New York Times. He thinks he's in touch, but he's not. Ellen is out of touch. They all grow. So it's hard to say. You have to say certain times when people were your influences because Seinfeld...
It's a window.
It's a window for sure. You know, like once Louis C.K. got rich, he had to be like, I'm rich, you know? And like, same thing with, they all have to address it. So then Ellen's doing that special that's like, relatable. Shut the fuck up. I'd rather you just, it's hard to do stand up, I think, when you become super, unless you're Anthony Jeselnik and it's sort of like your shtick is not who you are. So, influences, I'd say, and then also everyone lately is getting outed for Me Too stuff. So it's bad, but the first special I watched was Chelsea Peretti's on Netflix. That was really like, damn, that was really, really funny. I really like her tone and her voice. She doesn't do as much stand-up anymore, and I actually kind of respect that a lot because it's a grind as fuck, and sometimes you just want to like chill at home with your rich ass director husband. So I really liked hers was like, and then I more so have just like people in my own New York scene like Sam Morril and like Emma Willman and Joe List, people who are just like always working. And
Joe List, funny.
Oh, Sam Morril is always like, how can I, he always has an hour coming out of the best jokes you'll ever see, always putting out new stuff.
Yeah.
And even Mark Normand always just bringing a piece of paper on stage on a Friday night show. And you're like, oh, that's who I want. Yeah. So people like that who are just like always working and you know they're in it for the long haul and never any hint of like, I am in this to be famous. They just like love anyone who just loves getting on stage.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to have Mark Normand on, and that's like the kind of dude he is, and that's like we talked about cancel culture, right? With you know all of our guests, and I feel like the way he attacks it, it's like he's saying it, but he's not really saying it, but he's kind of saying it, and like and I think that's the way you have to be now because that's what the industry makes you be because you can't.
Yeah.
Anything provocative is like, and cancel.
Yeah, I saw something from Tim Dillon the other day that was like, if you get in to the industry, just expect to lose your job for saying something crazy. But if you don't, you can do whatever you want. So I think maybe comics should start thinking more of industry as just like regular office jobs where you're like, I got to have a clean slate to go into this because that's what they expect of me. And there's not really that much anymore of like, I'm a crazy comic and I got SNL. You won't really get it that much anymore unless you have a clean slate. So I think that's how things are changing. But at the same time, the industry jobs aren't popping off as much as the go your own way Andrew Schultz type of thing. So it might not really matter. I think at a certain point you have to pick which route you want to go, kind of. It's a kind of hard to straddle both. And even as I kind of like do TV stuff, I'm like, is my podcast going to get, I'd never say like crazy stuff on my, but you also like, will I be able to straddle both? Yeah. It's hard.
Well, before we let you go, one thing I want to talk about your podcast.
Yes.
At that time of the week.
Yes. That's my podcast.
Which ironically, once again, I have to deal with Rocky's that time of the week once a week. But anyway.
Yes.
Talk to us about that. Was this something that you started over quarantine? And
yes, I started over quarantine, but it wasn't an idea formulated during quarantine. I had the idea actually because I like Tough Crowd a lot, but I wanted to make a Tough Crowd with all women because every time, right? And initially it was like
really fucking Tough Crowd.
yeah, right. But I couldn't do like me and 4 women over COVID just because people would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And also that's incredibly hard to produce. Someday it would be awesome for limited this to, it's only 15 episodes in, and it's just me and rotating groups of women. And sometimes it's like always the same guest who's my best friend. And then other times we bring in new people, and it's just like always just like women bantering about current events and roasting each other and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish you the best of luck with it. I mean, I'm checking it out. And I know Rocky is too. And when you're definitely, for what it's worth, you're on our radar for new comedians. So like, we appreciate you, and convince us to go on Patreon. Everybody's on Patreon.
Convince you guys to make a Patreon.
Yes.
Yes.
Arch, I thought you were making OnlyFans now.
Oh my God, dude. I think Patreon's cool. You know why I think Patreon's cool? Because if you get it set up now during quarantine, once you guys start going out there again, you will have the foundation of people coming up to you being like, where else can I see you? You know what? I have a Patreon, and that's how you can support me. I think setting it up now in quarantine can be very humbling because maybe not a lot of people will join right away, but to have it there and to kind of make some extra money from people who just genuinely want to support you is very nice to have for post-quarantine.
So I'm curious about it just because so somebody would just go to your site. Like I went onto your site and I saw you could be a Maddie's Baddies, or you can for an extra couple bucks you can, I guess, get more content. Yeah. So I could see your podcast. I can I can view whatever you put out. Then $5 more, I can get more. 15, I can get even more. Yeah. And how has it been going for you? How's Patreon? How long have you had it before?
It's going at literally like a little over a month. Only as long as the podcast has been around. It's going really well. So on the Patreon, that's where only the video episodes of my podcast are available. So I drop like clips on Instagram, but the full video available is there. So it's kind of like a little talk show that people get to watch every week. And then the audio is there too. And they get like an early release. And then I also do like a solo pod every Thursday. That's just me rambling and kind of gossiping. So it's kind of like Patreon exclusive, and that's on video. And then between those two, I do like behind the scenes of shows. I do a little bit of Andrew content. He's my boyfriend. And I do a little bit of like Andrew content. I do a little bit of like vlogging. So it's kind of like everywhere. It's like long form Maddie content that if you follow me on Instagram and you're like, I'm obsessed with her, you'll be like, I want to see more. Kind of like watching a comedian work out material. Yeah. Kind of on Patreon. And so hopefully when I start like getting back into it, I'll get more, like obsessive fans. People get obsessed after they see you live. The social media, I think it takes more like boom, 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 boom in their fucking faces. But if someone sees you live one show, they'll be like, I will join that immediately.
Yeah.
Right on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on it. And, hopefully we'll see you in New York sometime soon.
Yes, hopefully. Yes.
Tell everybody out there where they can find you.
Yes.
Throw out.
So Maddy Smith on Instagram, and then my podcast comes out every Monday that time of the week. As we just said, it's on patreon.com/Maddy Smith for exclusive full video that is literal fire.
I fucking crack up. You start your videos, you're like, what's up, motherfucker? And then you'll go into like a 90s rap. And I'm like, all right, that's awesome.
So dumb.
Everybody, the great Maddy Smith, thank you so much for giving us your time. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Had a great time.
Appreciate it. Talk soon.
Stay safe. That was the very funny Maddy Smith. Please catch her on Wild 'N Out season 15. Like you heard her say, hopefully she's coming back for a follow-up season to that. Follow the podcast on Instagram at That Time of the Week Pod. Full video episodes available on patreon.com/Maddy Smith. Support Maddy's Baddies. What's up? And if you see her out and about New York City, because the clubs are open again, fucking check her out. Listen, with that being said, Rocco, do you have anything left to say to the people?
If you just heard us talking to the very funny Maddy Smith and you're wilding out, eating a dirty water dog with mustard and kraut, and there's no doubt that you got mad clout like Mike Trout, then you're listening to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
We out.